Hello, my beautiful people, ladies and gentlemen. 77 once again, coming back at coming back at you guys with Love and Individuation Part 2. And got a part 2 because usually how I'm finding myself do this, I'm not really one to take notes and, you know, have a structure before a video because I'll want to make it extremely perfect and I'll sit and deliberate for days and days and days and days on how to make my outline, notes, things like that, to where, I just wing it. And if I need to, and I'll look back on my video a couple times and if I'll take notes on things that I miss, things I may have missaid, and I'll make a part two, three, etc., etc. So I'm finding that's more my preferred way to do it as of now. Um, but as you can see, I have here the ISFJ woman. I have the ISFJ woman because, like I've said before, in society, in society, excuse me, my throat chakra. Hello. In society, the ISFJ is the most common woman, and like I said about sensors, they make up 75% of the population across the planet. So when it comes to the ISFJ woman, you could pretty much say one out of every four and five relationships throughout the world today is with an ISFJ woman, or a man is with an ISFJ woman. So, and as I've also said, the ISFJ or the sensor woman, sensors in general, period, but namely the ISFJ woman, they shape the entire scope of dating, marriage, etc., the last 2025 years. Okay? When a guy is pumping iron, wanting to get a good job, things like that, it is to impress the ISFJ woman or the sensor woman. Because, like I said, the sensor woman, there's more sensor women on the planet than there are intuitives as a whole, men and women. So, the sensor woman, the dating, marriage, like I said, everything is predicated on what they want in a man. You know, that is what every man, when they're a teen, things like that, buying roses, love letters through passing them through class in high school, things like that, to getting the best job, having the best car, the biggest house, the most money. Everything is predicated on pleasing the censor woman. So I have my notes here from the first video, and I'm gonna hopefully I can go through these rather quickly because I got some other things I want to discuss. Okay, so my first point here is, and I got my notes here, like I said, gonna clear some things up. Um, what I speak on is 100% personal experience, and this is sort of a disclaimer. I've said these things in past videos before, but there's a lot of people, especially when it comes to the animus slash anima awakening. A lot of people, you know, they talk about these things in their videos, but when I listen to them, I don't see I don't see it from their personal experience. They speak from the aspect of them discussing what they've studied, what they've read about awakening, animus slash anima. That's, I mean, who can't do that? I mean, I can go to a library, you know, but me personally, I speak from 100% personal experience. Cold moon experience from all four of my all four of my shadow functions awakening, etc., etc. I speak from personal experience. So I just wanted to clear that up. you know, because awakened NI and FI craves craves authenticity. You know, it craves, it doesn't care about, you know, subscribers, it doesn't care about likes, it doesn't care about any of those things. It cares about being 100% authentic to what it truly believes, its values, etc., etc. So, and that's how I am. I don't care about subscribers, I don't care about likes. If my channel is for you, it is for you. If it's not, then it's not. I don't want you to look at anything I'm looking at. My channel is for those that want to look deeper within themselves and find something outside of this external realm. Okay? That's who my channel is for. Those that are seeking to awaken their NI, those that want a deeper perspective as far as FI, NI, things of that nature. That is what my channel is for. That is who my channel is geared towards. Okay? Namely, somebody that I wish I had early on in life to show me that I'm an INFJ. I'm not an ESTP. I'm not any of these other things. Okay? So that's what I wish I had, and that's what I want to be to those same type of people. Okay? So, as far as these other, INFJ channels, and I'm going to call them out: Frank James, Joyce Ming, and Professor T.I. He knows who he is. These guys, it's one thing to build your channel up. It's one thing to do that and reveal these things that you're deeply interested in, like NIFI, and to make your channel strictly about that. So to build an audience first. I get that. I totally get that. But it's a completely different story to never talk about the depth of NI, awakening, existential truths, things like that, in fear of losing subscribers because of money, status, things like that. I don't respect those channels at all. At all. If you claim to be an INFJ, if I don't see any NI depth outside of what I can go read from any book or any other channel, I'm not going to sub to you. I don't respect that. I just don't respect that. So unless, SE plus times 100 million, and that's a different story. But anyway, that's a different story. But you guys get what I'm saying. An INFJ that's claiming to be an INFJ that has no clue of what NI truly is. When you got 1,000 videos, yeah, just no, no, no. You know, because like I said, anybody can say, "Oh, I'm an INFJ," and do skits about all the personalities. Anybody can do that. Anybody can study all the personalities and just say, "I'm an INFJ," and make skits. That's nothing special about that. Absolutely, in no way, shape, or form is there anything special about that. That doesn't set you apart from the rest of the world. You have NI. If you if your channel, if it's you're an INFJ and your channel is truly about NI and you're being true to yourself, NIFE, then more often than not, you're not going to have a lot of followers. You're not going to have a lot of subscribers because, like I said, this sensor makes up 75% of the world. They can't quantify in their wildest dreams what NI is. So therefore, why would they sub to it? So that's the whole point. So moving on, you know, I want to do a twist. You know, I want to do a twist for this video, and I want to bring in a guest speaker, even though they don't know they're a guest speaker, but they're a guest speaker. It is Eternalized. Now, Eternalized is somebody with their channel who I highly respect. As I've said before in past videos, as I've said in past videos, I discovered the MBTI March of 2023. Eternalized is probably one of, let's say there were 10, 15 channels that I was all over when I first discovered I was an INFJ. Professor TI is one of the main ones. And over time, these last 3 years, Eternalize is the only channel that I'm still sub to because the depth that there's NI 10 plus depth in 100% of his videos all over his channel. Okay. This is why I respect the guy and why I still sub to him to this day. I will put a link in the description or in the bottom of the video in the description. So you guys can go check him out. He is awesome. I love the guy. Okay. So without any further ado, Eternalized. Take it away.
Whoever looks into the mirror of the water will see first of all his own face. Whoever goes to himself risks a confrontation with himself. The mirror does not flatter, it faithfully shows whatever looks into it, namely, the face we never show to the world because we cover it with a persona, the mask of the actor, but the mirror lies behind the mask and shows the true face. The word persona originally refers to a theatrical mask worn by actors to depict the roles played by them. In Carl Jung's model of the psyche, the persona lies between our ego and society. The ego refers to our center of consciousness, which is responsible for our continuing sense of identity throughout our life, and the persona is the social mask that we put on. We all embody different masks in different settings, as it is our way to adapt to the demands of society, playing an important part in shaping our social role and in how we deal with other people. But it also has its dangers. The persona is a complicated system of relations between individual consciousness and society, fittingly enough a kind of mask, designed on the one hand to make a definite impression upon others, and on the other to conceal the true nature of the individual.
Now, I have, as you guys can see, I have the ISFJ woman here because, like I said, one out of every 4 or 5 relationships, most likely, you're going to be with an ISFJ woman or a censor woman, period. So that is why I have the ISFJ here. So we're going to talk about these guys. When it comes to the censor woman, unconsciously, let me clear that up. This is unconscious. So hopefully ISFJ women, censor women can take a look at this. I want to help and reveal these things to them so they can awaken this right here. Because yes, even the censor can awaken the little NI that they have to some degree to where they can see in a different perspective and start thinking about these things. Okay. So, but namely, I've mentioned before that the censor only cares about externalness. Okay. Typically, when you meet a censor woman, they're going to want to know what your job is, how much money you make, what your financial situation is, namely your credit. Do you have a house or an apartment? They want to make sure that their SI, comfort and security, will be taken care of. And another thing, they have to ask all these questions to ease this, like I said, to prevent in any chaos situation. Okay? That is why they ask so many questions. That's why they need to know these things. They're going to want to know, like an ISFJ, they're going to want to know about your family background, the relationship you have with your friends, things of that nature. These are all questions that will ease their NE. Okay. So, and as I've said, there's no NI. There's no NI. Okay. There's no intuition there. So, to compensate, and like there's that word again that I'm going to use. Yes, compensate for not having any NI. Okay, they have to compensate with this. Okay, they have to compensate with that. Their SI. Okay, that is the only way the sensor learns anything. Okay, through past experiences, 100% past experiences. Okay, so like I said, they're gonna want to know all these things, you know, to ease the NE. Okay, now, like I said, even with the sensor woman, she has all four sides of her mind as well. And she's going to want somebody that appeals to all four sides, but she just doesn't know that. Okay. And like I said, I'm a guy. So of course, I'm going to speak on women. Okay. So, so continuing. So with the ISFJ woman, look at all four sides of their mind. You got your ENTP subconscious. So they're going to want somebody that is smart. Okay. They're going to want somebody that brings nuance. Okay. Nuance that fits into their SINE dynamic, of course. Well, then you have some, if you present them with something new and unique that will catch their eye. Okay. And it will get them to think with this guy. Okay. And that's a crummy looking circle. So there's a lot of this going on. Okay. There's a lot of that going on. So that is the primary mode of processing in the ISFJ woman. Okay, ISFJ man as well. So, as well as that, you got the ESFP shadow. If you can see SE here, what that means is they're gonna want a man that is physically attractive. Let me repeat what I just said. The ISFJ woman is going to want a man that is physically attractive. They're gonna want that. Okay. Now I'm speaking in terms of the unawakened ISFJ woman here. Okay. So this means quite a bit to them. And hey, I'm a man as well. That means something to me too. So SE is important in relationship. Even I can say that. Okay. So I'm not faulting them for that. Not faulting them for that. But it's the point of this is as far as it goes. Okay. So also their passion with their FI. Also, absolutely. So then you have the INTJ superego. Okay. They're going to want somebody that has future vision. Future vision. Okay. To, and again, like I've said, the sensor woman has weak eye. So it is very important for a man to lead them. This is one of the primary characteristics a sensor woman is going to want in a man. The primary, one of the primary characteristics. But all sensor men typically have weak eye. So the man is leading them how? Exactly. Think about that. Continuing. But anyway, they're going to want somebody that has that future vision, future focused vision, intuition to lead, things of that nature. They're going to want that. Okay. So, but typically, none of this, they want these things, but And that's mainly why they're asking all the questions, to see if the person exudes these characteristics. Okay? That's why. So, but to but like I said, typically people only fall in love with one side of a person's mind. Okay? They only fall in love with one side of their mind, which is the persona most of the time. The majority of the time. Mostly all of the time. So, what that would be in the ENTP, excuse me, what that would be in the ISFJ, typically or generally, is the ENTP subconscious. Because I didn't touch on this in my first video, but as you can see, the inferior function NE right here, this is a person's inferior function, and generally, people want to display or be what that function is. You know, you can look at the subconscious as what a person wishes they were. Okay, so in that case, yes, the ISFJ wishes they had the NE or strong NE, such as somebody like Neil deGrasse Tyson, someone like that. Okay, he is an ENTP. Okay, so if you guys don't know who Neil deGrasse Tyson is, he's an astrophysicist, and ever since the age of 6, he knew the space, the stars, the cosmos, astrology, A through Z is what he was going to be. Okay, go look him up. He's a really cool dude. So that's NETI in a nutshell. What I explained about Neil deGrasse Tyson. Okay, so that would be the subconscious of the ISFJ. I already explained the future vision. I already explained that. So I want to go back to this though. I want to go back to this. Okay, the shadow FI of the ISFJ, or I'm going to go a step further. Anybody, any human that has unawakened shadow FI, not just ISFJ women, not just them, anyone with shadow FI. How it works is, you in a relationship, one thing that's also gauged is it's important for a person to not only love them physically, but like I said, the attraction or the appearance as far as the sensor woman is paramount. It's their meal ticket. Okay. So why is that their meal ticket? It's because lying behind the attractiveness, the SE, is the shadow FI. Okay. Where all of a person's faults, flaws, their insecurities, their imperfections lie, how they feel about themselves. Okay. That is going to be very important. Okay. And like I said, you know, people are seeking relationships because of a lack of how they feel about themselves. So the sensor woman primarily wants a person that will not only love them physically, but love all of their faults, their insecurities, their flaws, their imperfections, namely their shadow FI. Namely their shadow FI. Okay? That is what is most important to the sensor woman. To have somebody to love them in spite of their flaws. Okay? That's why you've heard certain quotes throughout time, such as, if you don't love me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. This is what this means. Okay? So, like I said, that's the number one objective. So it's It's kind of but when I think about it with all my research, it's kind of a backwards kind of thing, or maybe it's a catch 22. I don't know if that's the right way, or an oxymoron. Is, they want you to love and be very attracted to them while projecting these insecurities. Okay. But at the moment you mention or call them out on, hey, you know, you have a lot of deep repressed issues, things like that, then they will take it as you don't love them. They will take it as you only love them externally for their attractiveness, because that is a fear in the back of these center women's mind. And the more attractive you are, multiply that times 20 million. Okay. So, these are the types of things that go on in relationships, and they end relationships. They will destroy relationships. And I'm talking about censor women here, but it's also censor men. They have insecurities too. Absolutely. Whether it's trauma from the past, whether it's their own physical insecurities, you name it. It is the same. It is the same for censor women, censor men, and I'm going to go a step further. With every human, 99% of humans, 99% of humans, okay? But primarily, since we're talking about the censor, 6.5 billion, they run the world. That's why they're the subject matter, okay? So let's see what else I got. What else I got here on my notes here? Um, whereas, okay, yeah. Whereas healthier FI, awakened SE, so to speak, or well, let me do green here, or awakened SE, or higher SE in the stack. It would be more about, you know, I don't. If I'm looking in the, if someone looks in the mirror and they don't like their appearance, they're gonna be more like, well, I don't like how I look. Why would I want somebody to love me when I know I don't like how I look? Why would I want somebody to love me with all the insecurities, flaws that I have, knowing that I don't want to live with them? I need to change that. I want to work on these things, whether it's attractiveness, the faults, the insecurities, childhood trauma, you name it. Okay. You know, it's more when you have healthier SE, you want to be these things, you know, like, let's say being physically fit. It's more about being physically fit for yourself, not necessarily anyone else. And in turn, you being physically fit for yourself, you're automatically, you know, attracting or whatever, you name it. Okay. So, and it's more, like I said, and it's more about, you feeling that way about yourself. That boosts your self esteem, not because you're doing it because you want attention, but because you are proud of you for making strides and doing these things for yourself, completing personal milestones. Okay. So, you know, these are some of the things that I wanted to talk about in part two. I'm definitely going to make a part three because there's definitely other things that I want to talk about. Absolutely. That I didn't get to touch on because wow, time flies. It's 28 minutes. So that's going to conclude this video. Please, guys, if you have anything you want to say, please comment. I'd love to hear you guys' opinions, thoughts, so we can debate about it, so we can talk about it. Absolutely. But yeah, thank you guys once again. And this is 70 Severance, signing out.